Sophia, please stand. So, hopefully you enjoyed Lady D and her. Just another example of the rich talent that exists in this state. And it just reaffirms why I love it. Despite the friggin' headwinds that we face in challenging times, there are really soulful, wonderful, giving people here. And I couldn't think of myself in a better place right now than being here at Marshall University and being a member of this community and being a member of the greater Appalachian Studies Association community. So, thank you. So that was really, Lady D was the beginning of tonight's events. Hopefully you enjoyed the reception and enjoyed her soul stylings. Our keynote speaker will be our illustrious friend Bill Turner, who will speak shortly. But I want to welcome a couple of reenactors. Kristen Martin, who's going to be reenacting channeling Harriet Tubman, and then Leah Branch will be reenacting channeling Madam C.J. Walker. Without further ado,
Just playing Harriet Tubman.
So I'm not the audio-visual guy. So we'll have someone hopefully come down and lower the lights. Can y'all see lights?
Good evening. My name is Harriet Tubman. I'm here to tell you a little bit about myself. You may think you know, but I'm gonna make sure you know. I was born Araminta Ross. They call me Old Hat, Minty, and Moses. Born on a plantation in Dorchester County, Maryland. Don't know the exact date. We were listed with the cattle as chattel, or sometimes not at all. At the age of 5, I was a nursemaid to a baby that wasn't allowed to cry. I rocked the cradle all night long, and when the baby would cry, I would get whipped and beat. That was all the time. I was nothing more than a baby myself, always falling asleep, always getting beat. Well, I carried those scars all my life. When I got a little older, they used me as a field hand, a cook, and a woodcutter. Well, I could pull a plow better than any man. At the age of 12, I stepped in front of a fugitive slave trying to save him from his overseer, who had thrown a heavy metal weight at him. Well, I caught the heavy weight with my hand, broke my skull. They carried me fainting and bleeding all the way to the house. Didn't even have a bed to lay me on. Put me on the seat of the loom that there day and the next. Well, by the grace of God, I survived, but for the rest of my life, I suffered from seizures and from fainting spells. But even that couldn't keep me from my freedom. You heard the old saints talk about when the spirit hits them, it's like fire, shut up in their bones. Well, I had running and freedom shut up in mine. You see, I wasn't born free, but I was born to be free. Let me tell you about my family. I had 8 brothers and sisters. 2 of my sisters were sold off. Never heard from them again. Well, when word got out that 2 of my brothers were to be sold, I decided we was going to run to the north and to freedom. By then, I was married to a freed man named John Tubman, and he refused to go. Said he was already free. Well, you know what I told him? A goodbye, God bless, never look back. Went on. Me and my brothers to our plan to run to freedom. And you know what they did? They got scared. They got scared and turned back. Turned back. They couldn't shake that slave mentality. Well, you know what I told them. A goodbye and God bless too. I didn't care who it was. I could taste my freedom. You see, sometimes when people don't align with your purpose, you gotta let them go. Even your family. Well, I went on by myself and got free, but I wasn't satisfied with being free by myself. Went back many times and led others to freedom. You see, you can't be comfortable in this life when those who are around you are in danger and in trouble. Your purpose in life is not to yourself. Your purpose in life is to others, to God, His purpose, His plan, not yours. Well, let me tell you about the Underground Railroad. There were safe houses called stations, and those who ran them were the conductors, and we were the passengers. We had to look for lighted lanterns hanging on hitching posts, and there were messages on quilts hanging in yards and in windows. We had tapping noises, and there was so much more. We learned from the geese flying north in the summer. We knew that the moss would lead us to the North Star and to freedom. Well, my method was to leave early on Saturdays in the wintertime when the nights fell early. Runaway notices weren't printed until Mondays, so it gave us a few days head start. That was my plan. Now let me tell you about the slave masters and the overseers. They loved to hear us sing. After all, a singing slave is a happy slave, right? Well, they thought our songs were silly. They had no idea what was going on in those songs. We weren't just worshiping, we were passing messages in those songs. When they heard me say, swing low, sweet chariot, or still away to Jesus, or follow that drinking gourd, that was the Big Dipper. If you found it, you could find the North Star. Oh, Moses come down the slave quarter singing, wade in the water. They knew, meet me near the water, it was time to go. Well, I went back so many times, they put a bounty on this old head, $40,000. You know who got that money? Nobody, because God put a hedge of protection around me and no man could catch me. Put other obstacles in my path too. They passed the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. Now, they would go to the north, kidnap the slaves, take them back down to the south, and they were no longer recognized as free. So I had to devise a new plan. This time, I marched them all the way up north and out of this country into Canada, where they could finally be free. Help them find work to support themselves. I joined the Union Army. I was a veteran spy and scout, first woman to lead an army expedition. Well, I pointed out ammunitions of the Confederates to be destroyed. You now listen to me. You don't let no man-made obstacles stand in your way. If God be for you, who can be against you? When your electoral boundaries are gerrymandered to keep a party in power? When they close down your precincts and shorten your time to vote? Vote anyway. When they try to erase your existence, your history and your accomplishments? March on, fight on, you don't ever give up. Well, I don't care if you have to stand in line for hours or for days. Better pack a picnic dinner. You don't let nobody take away your God-given rights. You see, I marched on bloody, blistered, shredded feet. I was cold and sick and hungry. Dogs was chasing me, terrorists were chasing me, all so that you could realize freedom. But don't tell me that you don't know how to get involved or you won't make a difference. I'll call you a liar straight to your face. And you're already a slave to yourself. And that's the worst kind. You see, if God can take a woman who couldn't read and write, born into slavery, who fell out in seizures, what do you think he could do with you? With God as my leader and guide, I was fearless. I fought all my life so that you could be free. Now, my work on earth is over. I'm walking the streets of gold. But what about yours? It's never too late to start. Be the Moses for your generation. Have a good evening.
Got that hair all fried, dyed, and laid to the side. Go on, y'all. The Guinness Book of World Records lists me as the first female self-made millionaire in America. Although controversial, there were others, just less documented. I was a self-made millionaire. Make no mistake about it. One of the richest women in America, black or white. Hello, Oprah Winfrey. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I was the first of 6 children born into freedom. I was orphaned at the age of 7. At the age of 10, I was living with my sister, where I was abused by my brother-in-law. Also at the age of 10, I became a child domestic servant. Had little or no opportunity, only 3 months of formal education, and that was during Sunday school literary lessons. I've been married 3 times, widowed twice, divorced once. I was left with a daughter that I was determined would be educated. I did everything in my power to survive. I'm a woman from the cotton fields of the South. From there, I was promoted to the wash tub. From there, I was promoted to a cook in the kitchen. But from there, I promoted myself to manufacturing hair goods and preparations. My brothers were all barbers, so the interest in hair care always run in the family. Now, I want to talk about some myths about me. I did not invent the hot comb or the relaxer. I invented vegetable shampoo, hair pressing oil, and hair grow products that you can still buy today. Now, while I did popularize the use of the hot comb, it was never my intention to alter the appearance of African American hair. It was my intention to enhance the appearance of African American hair. I'm a hair culturist. You got that? A hair culturist. I grow hair. You have to remember that when the only positions available to us were washerwomen and domestic servants, all day, every day, our hair was exposed to hot steam, dirt, and harsh soaps that dry out and damage the scalp. What no indoor plumbing, so healthy hygiene wasn't what it is today. Add to that poor nutrition due to being impoverished, and what you got? You got damaged hair and a crusty scalp. So I said to myself, there has to be a better way to take care of the crown of glory up on our heads. That's when I created and promoted scalp massages, conditioners, and cleansers for African American hair. Modern day products are influenced by my products and still stand the test of time today. Y'all do lives on social media. But back in the day, wasn't no such a thing. I went door to door selling my products and services. I built salons and beauty shops and laboratories for research. I trained and hired over 20,000 women. That's right, I was determined to train and educate my queens on how to beautify themselves, all while becoming financially independent. I built my own factory on my own land. Hello, Mr. Tyler Perry. I also built a 34-room mansion that back in the day, I paid $250,000 for. Now, I ain't saying all that to brag. I'm saying all that to show you what God can do. Won't he do it? I said, won't he do it? Yes, he will. My mansion was not only my home, it was a conference center for those involved in race relations. It was a meeting place for those involved in the Harlem Renaissance. Child, it wasn't nothing to have W.E.B. Du Bois, Langston Hughes, and other dignitaries sitting at my dinner table. That's right, I never forgot where I came from. I always reached back and helped my people. I was a philanthropist to many organizations. To whom much is given, much is required. Don't y'all go getting all caught up in yourselves and your blessings and forget to bless somebody else. That's our mission in life. So my message to you this evening is, with God, all things are possible. Don't you go let nobody tell you what you can and cannot do. If God can take poor, uneducated me from the cotton fields of the South and use me to positively influence others, then he can do the same for you. Take it from Madam CJ. You all are beautiful, kings and queens. Treat yourself as such and take care of that crown of glory up on your head. And if you don't know how, get some help. Find somebody who can. Whether you wear your hair natural or straightened, weaved or braided, you wear it with pride and dignity because you are somebody. From the top of your heads to the soles of your feet. And always, always remember that no matter where you are in life, you use your blessings and you reach back and you help somebody else. Help make this world we live in a better place. Now, you all go about your evening and may God bless you and keep you.
Well, that was just wonderful. So, I get the distinct honor of introducing our keynote speaker. I'm not going to bore you with all the accolades because the man is just one of a kind. He's a friend and mentor, my North Star. I try not to get too emotional about it. But when it came to picking someone to be the keynote, there's no question it was going to be William H. Turner, PhD. Or as my students know him as Bilbo now. Bilbo was his nickname growing up, if I'm correct in that, Bill? Yeah. So I teach, I have the real privilege of teaching what we call Jaeger Scholars here on campus. They are the creme de la creme of our student population. They're in the Honors College. They get a full ride to Marshall. And I was invited to teach them about Black Appalachia. So my class is Black Appalachia, Race, Place, and Identity. The first book we read, the first book we examine, is Blacks in Appalachia, which was edited by Bill Turner and Edward Cabell in 1985. The book was published. It is the seminal work on Black Appalachian scholarship, stories, experiences, and contributions. I have the deep privilege of collaborating to be the co-lead editor with Bill, with Dr. Wilbur Hayden, Dr. Sheena Harris on Black in Appalachia, Race, Place, and Identity, which is the follow-up anthology, which is being published by the University Press of Kentucky on September 8th, 2026, I do believe. If I would have thought about it, I'd have put it up there and had the link so you can read it too right now. We actually have a couple of scholars. Kevin Solinsky is in here as a contributor. Kevin, please stand up. Anyone else in the mix that's here as a contributor? It just, the wonderful thing, I met Kevin, this is the beauty of this conference. I met Kevin last year in Tennessee. Tennessee Tech, right? Is that where it was last year? Wilbur and Hayden and I were going to grab a meal, a bite to eat. We bump into a bunch of young folk. Oh, what the hell, we'll invite them to come. We'll just start chatting up and start having a conversation. And then Kevin starts talking about his research. And it's fascinating. And I looked over at Wilbur and I said, you know something, we gotta invite this guy to join the anthology. From there, that meeting, Kevin submitted a contribution. We were able to include it in the mix. And so Kevin, I haven't seen him since actually that conference. It's just one of the beautiful byproducts of this conference. So, y'all know Bill has been around for ages. I think he might have been born before there was buttermilk, butter grease. What is it? Stuffed cocoa butter. Thank you. Y'all know what I'm talking about. So the man been dealing with ashy knees for a long time. But I met Bill when I was just starting out as a scholar. I believe I was presenting at Shepherd University at one of the conferences. And Bill came over to me and in his understated way say, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Bill Turner. And you know, in the midst of decompressing from giving one of my first scholarly presentations, it didn't hit me. And then it finally hit me, oh, you that Bill Turner. And I literally gave the man a hug. I leaped up and gave him a hug. And then from there, it's just been a wonderful friendship and mentorship. I'm proud to call him a friend. You know his works. Besides Blacks in Appalachia and Harlem Renaissance, won multiple awards. He also won an award for No Options, Appalachian Hip Hop. I may mangle the name. He's a Renaissance man. He and Ted Olson collaborated with his son J.K. Turner, collaborated on a hip hop compilation, won an award from the Appalachian Studies Association. This is a testament to who Bill Turner is. What I really appreciate and love about it is his continuing reaching back to bring young scholars into the mix. Nobody does more in outreach, calling folk up, damn, Bill, leave me alone, man. Nobody does more in contacting people. It's like he wakes up at 6 a.m., who can I call today? Boop, 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 boop. And he's out there recruiting, mentoring, celebrating, uplifting. That's who the man is. And so it is my pleasure to welcome Bill to the 49th Annual Appalachian Studies Association Conference as our keynote speaker. Please give a warm welcome to William H. Turner.
Assalamu alaikum. Well, let's see, what we would say if we were in Cairo. What about if we were in Johannesburg? We would say Hausit. And if we were in San Juan, we might say Buenos Dias, right? And if we were in Côte d'Ivoire, part of the diaspora, we would say what? Good afternoon in French. If we were in my hometown in Harlan, Kentucky, we would just simply say, how y'all doing this evening? Thank you so much, sir. When Cicero was saying what he said and welling up in his heart a little bit there, I thought about how embarrassing it can be when somebody introduces you and they say these things about you that make you get full of hubris. It reminds me of a man who had died in our hometown. The most prominent citizen died, and the eulogist was standing there talking about the brother who had died. And he said, he was a mason, he was an elk, he was a deacon in the church. He cleaved unto his wife and lusted after no other woman, Brother Lennon. He helped widows and orphans. He was a Boy Scout leader. He was in the Knights of Pythias. His wife was in the Court of Calente and the Eastern Star. He went on and on and on and on about this dead man and how great he was, as you just said of me, sir. And I thank you so much. Thank you. However, after this man was lauded so plentifully by the preacher, his wife, sitting right there in the front row with the children, had listened to this description of her husband, and she nudged her daughter. And she said, baby, go up there and see if that's your daddy in that casket. So if my wife, I've been married 58 years. Yes, I'm old. If the woman I married when I was 22 were here, she would say, go up there and see if that's Bill. Well, thank you. Let's see if we can go to the next one. Now, that's my great-granddaughter right there. Her name is Naomi Love Turner. My wife's maiden name is Love. And Naomi is 3 years old. And one day I told her to sing. She was standing next to the front door. And she just did her hand like this. And I thought I would use that photograph because very quickly I want to tell you the way I was taught to give a speech. So you students who give speeches, I took my speech class from a woman named Maddie G. Knight at the Lynch Colored School. That's where I went to school. I went to school there in 1952, and I stayed there until 1963. My mother went to the Lynch Colored Public School. They never let us forget we were colored. No problem, we didn't have a problem with that. So I had this teacher who went to Wilberforce. See, all of my teachers went to HBCUs. So I was raised by some eagles, no chickens. So they taught us, when you give a speech, tell people what you're gonna tell them. So I'm gonna have some reflections about how I came to stand in front of you here tonight. I'm gonna look back at some of the places and the people who shaped me as I tried to climb the mountains of Appalachian studies and focus my interest on black people in Appalachia. I'm gonna tell you that, and then when I finish, I'm gonna tell you what I told you. And I'm speaking particularly to young people. If there's any central theme in what I'm about to say, is always go around and find out who's the hardest teacher on the faculty. Who's the most difficult teacher on the faculty? Take that teacher. Go find those kind of mentors, and I'm gonna show you the people who taught me. Those two people right there on the left, that's my mama. My mama's name was Naomi. And we were preparing that day in 1987 to go to my father's funeral. This is my father on the right over here. And that's a paycheck my father got on December 31st, 1946. I was 6 months old. Daddy had worked 84 hours. And he came home with $45.70. This morning, when I left Houston, they took me through Atlanta. As you know, if you live in the Southwest or anywhere in the South, if you die and go to heaven or to hell, you're gonna have to go through Atlanta. So I went to Atlanta this morning, and I went into a restaurant called Ludacris. Y'all know Ludacris the rapper? Yeah, Ludacris charged some ludicrous prices. I had a catfish sandwich and 3 fried green tomatoes. It cost $47. If a line of flying. And y'all been to Atlanta Airport, what they charge you to eat in that place? And so my daddy bought it on $45 after working for 2 weeks because he owed his soul to the company store. And by the way, in the middle there, at the top is all of my brothers and sisters when all of us were alive. Now we're down to those at the bottom. And mom and daddy raised 10 children. 2 of my nephews, when their fathers divorced my sisters, my father said, no boy should grow up without a daddy. He called me, I was at Notre Dame in graduate school at the time, said, Billy, come home, you got to take me to Newark. I said, damn. I said, darn. I drove from South Bend, Indiana to Harlan County, picked Daddy up. We drove all the way to Newark, New Jersey to get my nephews who were 2 years old and 5 years old, and Daddy took them back, and him and Mama raised them till they were grown. That's the way he rolled. So that's that. Now, Cicero didn't think to show y'all his book, but I think this book in the context of Thomas Wolfe's classic called You Can't Return Home. You know that book? If you haven't read You Can't Return Home, y'all read You Can't Return Home. Because a lot of people like Cicero not only return home, but he is helping to change his home. And that book right there, I remember when Cicero sent it to me when it was a manuscript, and me and Ron Eller read it together.
You read it twice, Bill.
There's the picture you didn't want to show. There's the cover to the book. Yes, that's Sharon. That woman on the cover of this new book called 49th Appalachian is the only black female coal mining inspector in the state of West Virginia. She lives in a place called Jenkins Jones, which is in McDowell County, right across the hill from Kimball. Sheena Harris from Auburn. Wilbur Hayden was the first black president of the Appalachian Southern Association in 1988. Wilbur lives at York University in Toronto. Ron Eller, my fishing buddy, wrote the foreword for this book. It'll be out in what, September?
Yes.
Okay. Now, let me say a little bit about myself. That mountain in that picture there is the highest peak in Kentucky, and I live right there in that house by that tree in the middle of that space. That's where I grew up. Y'all remember a song from Old Brother Where Art Thou that said, the place where I was born and raised. Old brother, where art thou? I am a man from old Kentucky. I've seen trouble all my days. Yes, it is a true story for me. Now I live in Metro Houston. I live in Houston, and a lot of times I get homesick and I get lonely and I'm melancholy and wistful, like that painting by Tanner, Old Brother, Where Art Thou? I'm a man. That's my home today. Because the company left, United States Steel, they left that town and it looks just like Keystone, West Virginia. Where's Colorado Young? I know you're here somewhere. Yeah, we've seen our towns go down. This is where my town went down. When I was born in Harlan County, Kentucky in 1940, there were 7,500 people in that little town I lived in. And today, there are more people in this room than there are in my hometown. There are more people in this room. There was this massive out-migration from all these coal towns. In fact, I don't call it mountaintop removal, I call it mountaintop of black people removal. In fact, if white people had left West Virginia at the same rate that blacks left West Virginia, there'd be nobody in West Virginia. There'd be nobody here. Nobody. I noticed when I said what I just said, it got a little quiet. As my grandma would say, when you say things like that, you know you can hear a gnat piss on cotton. I'm going to say a few more things that's going to be like that too. And I want to very quickly kind of excuse myself for what I might say, because some of y'all ain't going to like it. And if I say something this long, I'll be up here another 30 minutes at least. And then if everybody liked it, I wouldn't have done anything. I wouldn't have come this far. So I want to very quickly, in the vein of something Lord Jones, who was one of the founders of this group, told me a long time ago, that people misinterpret you sometimes. So I know some of y'all are going to misunderstand me what I'm going to say. For example, that young lady standing there came into this artist's studio and said, I want you to paint my portrait. And he looked at me and said, I want y'all to pretend it was a black artist too, so that gives us a race and sex thing. When you fold race and sex together, boy, it's really heavy. Ooh, boy. I am not your normal Negro. You know, James Baldwin did that thing, I'm not your Negro, I'm not your Negro. So this girl said to this old brother, I want you to paint my picture, and he was kind of, he said, yeah, girl, I know your mom and your grandmama, I painted all their pictures. Like that. And she said, but one thing I want you to do, sir, I want you to paint me in the nude. And the old brother kind of went like this. He said, what? And she said, I want you to paint me in the nude. He said, Lord, honey, I know your grandmama and your mama. Yeah, I just can't do that. So, you know, she went in her purse or pocketbook, or whatever you call it, and she pulled out 5 crisp $100 bills. And she flashed them in his face. And she said, would you paint me in the nude for $500? That brother don't make $500 a month. And he thought about it, he said, yeah, I guess. I'll paint you in the nude, okay, but under one condition. I'm gonna keep my socks on. So I have something to wipe my brushes with. Now, in that little illustration, they misunderstood each other. She misinterpreted. So here's what I'm gonna do. That was one of my teachers, his name was John Hope Franklin. He wrote a book, anybody know John Hope Franklin's work? Of course you do. He wrote a book called From Slavery to Freedom. When I was a young man, I was 25 or 26, I had just finished graduate school and I was teaching at the place of my dreams in Nashville, Tennessee. And it wasn't Vanderbilt. It was Fisk. And I went and sat in on the classes for Dr. John Hope Franklin. There's a picture I took with him in 1988 when he was given an honorary doctorate from Berea College. And Dr. Franklin told me those 9 things right there. So any of you in here who colored, this is what Dr. Franklin told me. He said, Bill, as a black scholar, when you're speaking to a larger white audience, and this audience does look larger white, he said you should be inspirational but never intimidating. You should be passionate but never confrontational. You should be black, Cicero, but not too black. You should be strong enough to fight but not too strong. You should be inspiring but not distracting. You should speak truth but refrain from rattling sensibilities of your liberal friends. Never challenge the comfort of white liberals. That's what he told me. And I never listened to a word. Dr. Franklin was the head of Phi Beta Kappa. Dr. Franklin was the head of the Department of History at the University of Chicago. And he got that way because he said, Bill, just certain things you don't do. Now, when Dr. Franklin got older, he lived to be 101. When he got in his 90s, he became a black nationalist freedom fighter. Like Malcolm X or somebody. So I just don't want any of y'all to misunderstand me, because some of y'all still say Appalachia, and some of y'all say Appalachia. It doesn't matter to me. Let's get started. Let's get started with that man right there, my father's hero is named Jesse Owens. Jesse Owens won 4 Olympic gold medals in Berlin in 1936. I show him in this graphic here jumping over Hitler's head. Because you know, Hitler said white people are the most supreme people in the world. Okay, I want to start right here. For example, that fellow up there on the top left, his name is Charles Rowell. About 1971, when I was living in Baton Rouge, North Carolina, Louisiana, Charlie and I were on the faculty at Southern University at Baton Rouge. And Charlie came up with an idea for a magazine called Callaloo. Callaloo is a Jamaican dish from Trinidad, Tobago, gumbo. And he published this thing consistently even to this last month. And back in July of 2025, they came out with 2 special issues of Callaloo. Brother Butcher has an article in one of them, and Crystal Wilkinson was the guest editor. So, and that is the most premier journal in the African world. It's called Callaloo. And so that means that blacks in Appalachia finally became part of the African diaspora. Another thing I want to point out is those 7 people there are in this room. I wish I could tell them all come up here and stand up here, but we won't do it. But we founded an organization a few years ago in 2020 called Appalachian Black Community Developers. And you can see the cities we have people in Central Appalachia. And a fellow who helped us the most named Jim King, who runs an organization of a housing enterprising network out of Berea College called FAHE, the Federation of Appalachian Housing Enterprises. He and I were talking one day after the death of George Floyd in 2020. He said, Bill, we got to do something together. And I said, oh, I know some people that I've known for 50 years. We'll all get together. And so each of these people in Bluefield, bless his heart, Daryl died on us a couple months ago. In Keystone, in Lewisburg, in Hazard, Princeton, Whitesburg, Tennessee, Johnson City, Big Stone Gap, Virginia, Pennington Gap, Virginia, Knoxville, Tennessee, Lynch, Kentucky, Middlesbrough, Kentucky. And several of those people are here with us tonight. And so the organization does exactly what it says it do. We're trying to develop communities, like you mentioned, that you're doing here in this town. Now, another thing that I just jumped for joy at, since I've been around this since 1945, for 45 years, I have seen a whole batch of new Appalachians. Back when I was growing up, you had 2. Some were black and some were white. Now you got some that are Afro-Latins. You got some that are Asian-Latins, Euro-Latins, Hispanic-Latins, Finno-Latins, Immigration-Latins, Indian-Latins, Jew-Latins, Latin-Latins, Musa-Latins, Queer-Latins, Trans-Latins, and you also got, what did I do? You also got some Caribbean-Latins, and some Venture-Latins, and some London-Latins, and you got some Yoruba-Latins. So we really got a new DEI going on inside Appalachia, and it affirms that Appalachia has always been diverse. All these different groups are now challenging the myth of Appalachia as a homogeneous white space. So very quickly, why did I pick this title called Been to the Mountaintop? Mount Mitchell in North Carolina going toward Asheville is the highest peak east of the Mississippi River. And so I'm pretending metaphorically that I have climbed Mount Mitchell. My inspiration to climb Mount Mitchell started in April of 1968 when I was 21 years old. I was sitting in the library at the University of Kentucky studying when a friend of mine came in on April 4th and said, Bill, they killed Dr. King. April 4th, 6/15, 1968, Memphis, Tennessee, the Rain Hotel. Blew my mind. Because I hadn't really gotten into Malcolm by that time. I had still been a junior deacon in the church, and Dr. King convinced me of this nonviolent stuff. And I couldn't shake it. And when they killed that man, I said, oh my God. And in fact, he was in Memphis leading a strike for black sanitation workers, the same way he would be leading a fight tonight for immigrants in this country. My father made as much money in 2 weeks as I spent at lunch today in Atlanta. He might as well have been giving a speech for coal miners like my father, who in 1968, he had been a coal miner for 34 years. I was 22 in 1968. Now that's where I was in 1968. I did not have gray hair all of my life. There's a picture with me of a man my father said, the boy's gonna get you killed.
His name was Stokely Carmichael. His name was Kwame Ture. He took his name after Kwame Nkrumah and Sekou Touré in West Africa. And Stokely is holding my daughter, and my daughter's 54 now. That's Keisha. Keisha went to graduate school for history at Temple, and she went undergraduate to Spelman. But on April 9th, a few days after Dr. King had been killed, a fellow was scheduled to speak at the University of Kentucky for months. And this fellow called the people at the University of Kentucky and said, I can't make it because I'm going to Atlanta to be with Coretta and those children. And so they came to me and said, Negro, since you're already raised in hell, would you take the place of Muhammad Ali tonight and speak at this conference? And I did. I did a speech called I Too Am Willing to Die. And that speech was later described as a speech that changed Lexington. Now, the reason I wanted to point that out is that my father and mother thought I was going to get killed in Lexington, Kentucky in the 1960s, because every Tuesday and Thursday I would picket the basketball games of the University of Kentucky basketball team. In Kentucky, if you picket Adolph Rupp's basketball team, that was like saying there wasn't no Jesus. Anybody here from Kentucky? I'm telling you, somebody called me today and said Kentucky won the Final, not the Final Four, they won something in the basketball game. And I said, hey man, I'm still picking Adolph Rupp. I mean, you have to understand some of you young people what got skipped through in the realities of when you see all these black boys playing basketball nowadays, all these black boys playing football nowadays. Well, I came through an era when they didn't even want Wesley Unseld to play at Kentucky. And I was the head of the black student union, and Adolph Rupp looked me in my face and said, I don't need none of them. And now they got more black football players at Kentucky than they got black-eyed peas. There again is that picture of my daddy when he bought on $42. And when he did that, I was 5 years old. That's me and my 4 older siblings. And then there was 5 more that Mom and Daddy came along with. I remember one time I asked my daddy, I said, Daddy, you know, my oldest sister's exactly 7.4 months older, 7 years and 4 months older than me. The one on the left, Peggy. Peggy's dead now. Peggy was 7.4 months. She wasn't, I said, how can Mama have 5 babies in 7.5 years? Any of y'all here got a step family? All y'all from Little Bitty family like that. And when I asked my dad, I said, man, I ain't trying to get in your business. I just want to know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And Dad said, well, boy, here's what happens. We live up in this hollow. We live up at the head of the hollow, as I said. And Dad said, every morning at 4:30, that damn train comes up through here. And it just, whoa, making all that noise. And he said, it's too early to get up. And it's too late to go back to sleep. My father. That's what he's playing to all of his children. That's who raised me, my grandma, my community, these regional areas here, that church, that school, those coal miners. I took that picture of those 2 black women coal miners over there. I've known all those kids all their life, because I'm about 20 years older than most of them. And now here are the people who taught me. The first guy, I was telling someone today, that my first teacher that talked to me about Appalachia was an English teacher named Lee Pennington. Anybody know the word for Lee Pennington? Of course. Lee Pennington was a bad... Yeah, Lee Pennington. He taught me I went to a community college for 2 years. Anybody ever go to a community college? Yeah, I went to a community college. It was called Southeast Community College in Cumberland, Kentucky. I went there my first 2 years, and I studied under Lee Pennington. And he was the one who taught me, he handed me a copy of Night Comes to the Cumberlands. Harry Carlo lived right across the mountain in Whitesburg. He had written it. Doris Wilkerson, the first black woman who taught me, after these black women who taught me in high school and grade school. John Stevenson I was closer to him than any other person in the world except my father. John was my teacher at the University of Kentucky. And one time I wrote him a paper about Malcolm X. And I compared Malcolm to Martin. And it was 19 pages long. I was a junior or a senior, I think it was. And John gave me my paper back, and it looked like somebody had bled all over. And John was so hard on me. At the bottom of the paper, John wrote, "Bill, it's a good thing that we have a bird cage at home." Hurt me to my heart. He said, "We can use this paper in our bird cage." He said, "Bill Turner, I am not gonna patronize you. I am not gonna cut you no slack because you black. You gotta do best." Because my mama and them already told me, if you're black, you gotta do twice as good to get half as much. So here was a white man telling me virtually the same thing. You better be really good at what you're trying to do, because you ain't gonna get nowhere with this. John Stevenson, what a man. Oh, there it is. Julian Samora, he taught me race and ethnic minorities at Notre Dame, and I wouldn't be here if it weren't for him. He wrote a book called La Mojados, which is Spanish for the wetback story. That's what they used to call people that swim across the Rio Grande, down around Brownsville, Texas. Dr. Samora. Helen Matthews Lewis. She was a person who helped me grow up and down. Everybody know Helen, right? Helen helped to found this organization. Everybody know Guy and Candy Caroline? Yeah. The Highlander Center. Everybody know Sparky Rucker? Yeah. These are my friends. Have you noticed that most of the people I've talked about so far who helped me don't look nothing like me? Around them, I was a fly in the buttermilk. You ever seen a fly on a flower barrel? Yeah. What I'm saying, I don't like to use black and white as adjectives, but what I'm saying is that the people who I ran into after I got out of high school were white people. And I wish there were more white people like these white people were white people than me. Come on. I told you there might be some misunderstanding. But we need people to step up and stop being so careful and go and grab these black students by the arm and pull them in, because they're lonely as hell at some of these colleges. You need to go and get them like they came and got me. Laura Jones on the right here introduced me to Ed Cabell. Ed Cabell learned everything he knew from a white woman named what? Pat Beaver. Do y'all know Pat at Appalachian State? Of course you do. I see Tom Wagner over there. He's as old as I am. Hi, Tom. You know Pat, right? A lot of y'all in here got gray hair like me. You know Pat. Ed wrote a master's thesis in 1968 on blacks in Appalachia, and it turned into that book right there. How do you do it? This woman right here said, let's do this. Let me show you this. We need more John Stevensons. Be a John. Be a Pat. Here's some other people. Uneven Ground. Read that book. Power and Powerlessness in Appalachia. John Gaventa. Yes, John Gaventa. Tom Wagner and Phil Overmiller did a book called African American Miners and Migrants. Tom's sitting right back here. Sandro Partelli. These are some of the people that guided me and said, Bill, you need to take a look at this. You need to take a look at that. So Cicero, I learned from some of the best. Another person that gave me some insights was named Elizabeth Barrett. Liz died about 2 months ago. Liz helped to build a thing we call Apple Shop. Her husband, Herbie, I just saw Herbie in Hazard a couple weeks ago. Susan E. Keith wrote a book called Junaska, an oral history of black people in Western North Carolina. I shared an office for about 10 years with Bell Hooks at Berea. Sierra Lincoln, Duke, he was one of my teachers. Harry Caldwell, I used to see Mr. Caldwell all the time. And Ron Lewis, who wrote Black Coal Miners in America. And that man right there, I don't know if you're looking at a new daily news that comes out called Appalachian Daily News. Does anybody see that every day from Appalachian? Google Appalachian Daily News. It comes out every morning. And it's an AI program that goes and picks out anything said about Appalachia. And it rolls them out as an email. And Jim Branscombe, who lives in Phoenix, Arizona, a Berea College graduate, 1968, he puts that together for everybody. And in 1971, he said, one group of Appalachians were consistently overlooked and underserved by the institution of reason is the black people. He said that in 1971, he wrote that. Wonderful man, wonderful man. And he said that they are discriminated against and they're in competition with mostly poor white people for jobs and welfare funds, and the existence of blacks is a poor one indeed. If McDowell County, West Virginia is one of the poorest counties in America, can you imagine how poor the black people in McDowell County must be? Oh, there goes that gnat on that cotton again. I had the pleasure of learning a lot from that man right there. He won a Pulitzer Prize when he wrote a book called Roots. Alex Haley. I worked for Mr. Haley for about 10 years. What a man. Let's finish up. Martin Luther King's last book was called Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community. And there's Rodin's Statue of the Thinker. So let's think this through. This organization started 49 years ago based on the principles of interdisciplinary scholarship, teaching, but they underscored we have to be active in the Appalachian communities. We just can't keep studying people. We just can't keep writing novels about people. We can't keep doing statistical analyses. We are the intelligentsia. We are what W.E. Du Bois called the talented tenth of Appalachia. So it is our moral responsibility to get out here and change things. We must be committed to the lived experiences of people in mountain communities, and we must keep connecting with each other. My mentors, the people I showed you, informed me that Appalachia is not some other America, but Appalachia is like the rest of America. My aim tonight has been to show and encourage the present and future students to combine their analysis with creative writing and engagement. Over the last 2 minutes, I've tried to say that you must acknowledge the traditions of scholarship, those people I showed you, this moral obligation to the region and its people, and to recast knowledge as a form of responsibility. Appalachia does not need any more spectators of its suffering. Somebody say we need scholars and citizens who are willing to stand with the people whose lives we study. If Appalachian Studies only interprets this region, we've stopped halfway. Our task is not only to understand Appalachia, but to stand up for it. Amen. Like SNCC students did. To study Appalachia is to enter a covenant with our people, and knowledge carries obligations. Appalachian Studies was never meant to be only a field of study, it was meant to be a movement. That's what it is. Appalachian Studies had moved from the seminar room to the public square. I think under John Henry's etching of John Henry there, didn't it say power to the people? You know, we used to say that in SNCC. Power to the people. That's what he brought into the Black Panther Party. Power to the people. It scared the hell out of America. What else it did, it scared them to death. Especially when they said, we're going to defend our communities. You can't come in here just doing this anymore. And look where we've come. In fact, one of the most preeminent scholars in America, whose name is Cornel West, he recently described what was going on in Minneapolis. I'll just say the N-ization of America. The N-wordization of America. Now, come on. For more than a half century, we've documented Appalachia, its cultures, its struggles, its resilience, but as I'm trying to say, documentation alone is not enough. If our scholarship doesn't help the people of this region to confront their exploitation, the distorted images, and their neglect, then we've mistaken our observations for responsibility. Appalachian Studies must not only study the region, but it must stand for the region. We must explicitly connect scholarship with recovering suppressed voices and advocating for justice. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
He's basically saying if you want a copy of the slideshow, hit me up on fanc@marshall.edu. I'll be happy to send it to you. Wow. Another animal. Well, now you see why I brought him here. I think we are now in. We are over, aren't we? This is the end. I got nothing else to say, folks. It's about 7 to 8. The evening is yours. Be responsible. What's that?
Book signing.
Oh, book signing. Yes. Bill. Did you read the books?
They're already set up. They're going to sell.
Where are you, Ann? I hear you. I hear this disembodied voice.
WD press is set up out there in the lobby.
All right, you better have-
They sell Bill's books. The Bill's
Fantastic. You got your pen ready? You ready to sign? Well, yeah, we got one. Okay, so we got a book signing. Go get Bill's book. Have a good rest of the evening. Be safe.